Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Liverpool Transfer Room stream. We are currently live on YouTube and on Twitter. If you are on, I should say X, not Twitter. If you are on X/Twitter, please join us on YouTube to give us your comments and obviously subscribe. We have some really, really good content coming up for us over the next few weeks, including a Jurgen Klopp tribute, which I'm not going to lie is going to be a tough stream to be part of emotionally, but it will be one. There'll also be an end-of-season review and our upcoming transfer window. There's going to be a lot of content coming out from us hosts, so please make sure you subscribe to that. So joining me today, we have Paul, Carter, and Tom. Welcome, guys, on this bank holiday in England. I know, Paul, it would be bank holiday over there.
No, we don't have those things in Canada. We work every day.
Well, I also worked myself today. I haven't enjoyed it, unfortunately. But anyway, we'll get into the topics. And the first topic of all, it's not the greatest one to start on. It's not the nicest. I'm sure we've all heard about Darwin Nunez deleting all of his Liverpool images and content off his Instagram. There's been a lot of things bandied about abuse, and he's been targeted. I don't know why, if this is the case, is why it's suddenly happened now, especially after a good win. But apparently that is the reason why. And we'll discuss, well, one, is it acceptable? Personally, no, it's not. Two, is it justified? So, Paul, what is your thoughts on it? What is your thoughts on the situation regarding Nunez?
I was extremely disappointed when I saw that news circulating. I mean, as fans, we are free to criticize. We support our team, and we pay money to whether to go watch the game or to pay for subscription. So we are free to criticize, but we are never free to abuse. And there's a big difference between criticizing someone and abusing them. And it doesn't matter. I've seen some people saying that he is childish and so on. He should just turn a blind eye to it. But we are humans, and we need to treat each other like humans. So I am really not happy. And let's face it, Darwin Nunez could have done better. He could have scored more goals for sure. But if you look at just the statistics, his season is not as bad as people is making out to be. And he's in his second year. So I don't think this is justified. Abuse is never ever justified, but this one really get to me. I also believe that whoever is responsible are not really true Liverpool supporters, because I can't recall seeing a player getting the love from day one as much as how Darwin has gotten it. Yes, Salah has the love because we hear the song, the Mo Salah song all the while, but Salah has earned that over the years. The Anfield and Liverpool supporters have shown Darwin love from day one. So I just put it down to be as this small minority, maybe small 1 or 2%, that is just doing these things. And it's just for us to really show Darwin that, you know what, there are 98, 99% of the fans really love you and support you. So let's hope he can continue and just put that aside.
Yeah, exactly. Just to go on his goal contributions for this season, I think in all competitions, it's 31 in 50 odd games or something like that. Don't know if Carter, you can verify that. I know you're good with his stats, but it's certainly an improvement on last season. I know we've all been frustrated with him this season. Of course, we all know about the title race, the way it's gone, and we'll always narrow it down to crucial moments. And Darwin has been involved in a lot of crucial moments that haven't gone our way. But I'm sure you agree that the apparent abuse he has suffered over the last 24 hours, well, potentially over the season, but it's come to a head in this last 24 hours. I'm sure you can agree he doesn't deserve that.
I think it's just, I think at the moment, obviously, as Paul kind of said, they're not proper fans. Like, I think if you're in your group chat, like, or whatever, and no one's going to see, but you can call someone shit. You can say you don't like them as a player. You can say that their face annoys you or something. I just don't get the people that go onto someone's account and comment stuff like that. Like it happened to Cody. There were, I think, quite a few like racist comments and stuff. And I just think they're not like real fans. Like it's just you don't do that unless they actually do something like certain Man United players have done. Then stay clear of any abuse and keep that there. Just be constructive. And I think a kind of an issue I have with a lot of people is that they're giving out this criticism where this is almost like a whole. He's been like this the whole time. Like there's no need to just pile on him while the whole team's not playing badly. Like he still showed these issues when we were doing all right and you didn't care about them. But now the whole team struggled over a period. People think it's all right to sort of abuse him and criticize him. And yeah, it's just not on. I think especially like obviously rumored, I haven't seen like proof, but it probably did happen. Like commenting on his like partner's photos and stuff it's just not on. Like that's just so over the top.
Exactly. Tom, I don't know about if Paul thinks the same thing, but people of a certain generation, more so like my generation, have become entitled with when using a keyboard. They feel like they can say what they want because they're hiding behind a screen. Do you feel like our generation is an entitled generation, especially in regards to football? It seems that every football club seems to have its own keyboard warriors. Or do you feel like they aren't real fans? They're just there to be trolls? Or do you believe that they should have a voice, but they are just using it in the wrong way?
Yeah, come back to what Paul said, to be fair. We're all entitled to a voice. We're all entitled to criticise players when, they're underperforming. We praise them when they do well. We criticise them when they don't play well. That's just what a fan is all about, really. But yeah, like you said, you can't, there's a line and you can't abuse, you can't go into people's personal lives and, like I said, like abuse, that's definitely not on. But as someone that like goes the game, I can like unequivocally say I've never seen a player supported so much as Darwin. He's had some very good spells this season, and the stats back that up. He's not had a bad year at all, really. When you look at the stats, about 30 odd goal contributions. He's done really well, but there's no getting away from the fact that in the majority of his Liverpool career, he's underperformed from what we kind of expected. And honestly, like the support that he's got is unbelievable, really, considering the amount of cities he's missed. So yeah, like I said, the match-going fans. I've never seen a player, get so much support. To be honest with you, that's arguably doesn't quite deserve it. But the fans are always in the ground, have always had his back, no matter what. But I think for the first time yesterday, when he missed that chance towards the end, I did hear a lot of sort of groans. And at full time, he went straight down the tunnel, and then obviously he's done what he's done on social media. So obviously he's not taking that too well, but it's just the reality of the situation. I think now that fans are going to start losing patience with him a bit. He has cost us in certain games this season, and that patience is wearing thin a little bit, I think, within the ground. But yeah, in terms of the trolls, which they are, there's never any tolerance for abuse. But yeah, like I said, I think the patience is wearing thin a little bit within the ground now. Just it's just the nature of his misses. But we've got to get behind him, because that's the only thing that's going to kind of turn his fortunes around, really. He's not going to, nothing's good is going to come from abuse. So yeah, just hope he gets his head up and gets back on form. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And as Cameron says, you never walk alone means something. It does mean something. It means sticking by your team, supporting the club through thick and thin. And that is exactly the players and as individuals themselves. Nunez, as Carter mentioned before, we love big number nines. I know we've got a few exceptions with Andy Carroll from the past, but even he got some support at the start. Nunez has had a chant from day one. I think the price tag was harsh on him, and the fact he came in the same summer as Haaland, immediate comparisons were made. And as I mentioned before, mistakes in tight races and mistakes are made. It just immediately piles on you, especially when you've got a big price tag on your head. He doesn't deserve what he's got in the last, over the season in general, as much as he has been a frustrating player. He's also been an important player over, the Newcastle game for one, started it, and then I think over winter while Salah was gone, he was probably if not the most important player, definitely one of the top 3. So get off his back. If you are a Liverpool fan and you are giving him stick, be constructive, but don't get personal. He's one of our players. Just get behind him. And while he's wearing a red shirt, and that's our job, we are supporters. We're not just keyboard warriors. End of story. Well, I'll stick to the same subject to a point. Let's say it's nothing to do with the apparent abuse. Do we reckon he's an emotional guy? Do we reckon he edges for a move? Do we think that could actually happen? Going on his stats and whatnot, we love Edwards and his stats and his laptops. And we know he likes his numbers. His numbers, as we mentioned, have been decent. But could we do better? Do you think Edwards would think about a move, or do you think that it's another season, he deserves another chance? We'll start with you, Paul. What do you reckon?
I don't think he's going anywhere, at least not this year. Now, I know that most of the players from Central America, most of these Spanish players, growing up as children, they all have a vision to play for either Madrid or Barcelona. If you grew up in Uruguay or Colombia or those places, Barcelona and Madrid would be ahead of a team like Liverpool. I know that. But one, he's not going to go to Madrid because there's no space for him. 2, Barcelona can't afford him. So that is out the window. And I really believe that he's really loved at Liverpool, especially by the players, the coaches, and the fans that show up at the games. So I would hope that in a situation like this, the big players in the team, Van Dijk, the captain, players like McAllister and Thiago, who actually speaks his language, would show him some love, because not everybody have that strong, tough character. Some of us need a hug here and there, need reassurance from the people close to us that we don't agree with some of the stuff that is being said. And to be fair, he has had some horrific misses, yes, but some people are making it look like he's the only one that's guilty. I've seen some other even horrendous misses by other players. I mean, look at that chance that Salah missed yesterday. That was an easier chance than Darwin's chance later on. Salah missed a sitter at Atalanta when we were up 1-0 earlier. We need a second goal before halftime. They have some serious misses by other players. Where were these chances when Darwin was rescuing 3 points for us against Newcastle away, when we were down to 10 men and losing? Where were they when he scored that last-minute goal against Nottingham Forest, right? So I'm not saying that he's perfect, because no player is, but I just think he's been treated so unfairly, and I think it has a lot to do with his cost, the transfer fee, which is really not his fault. But I don't see him going anywhere, because for us to move him, we would have to take pennies on the dollars, and there is really no reason for that. And is not in the. Don't mention Darwin Nunez and Andy Carroll again, Dean, please, because they're not in the same boat. But I think I am really anxious to see if he can improve in this first year under the new manager. I expect him to, but we just have to wait and see.
That's fair, Paul. I'll try my best not to mention him in the same breath again, I promise. Tom, do you agree with Paul? Do you reckon he gets another season, or do you reckon the new manager might think it's not worth it anymore, we go again with somebody else? Does he try go for more of a proper target man, which his system does suit, or do you think we stick with Darwin?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, really. I mean, obviously you've got Gakpo there as well, who's a very good option. They're kind of two polar opposite sort of players, aren't they? Really, Gakpo and Nunez. Gakpo kind of can give a very sort of good false nine sort of profile. He's technically very good, can hold the ball up. Whereas obviously Darwin's, the big sort of target man, pace, more like an old-fashioned number 9. So just kind of have to see kind of what Arne Slot is kind of after with his setup. But I don't see him being sold, to be honest. I do think he'll get at least one more year. But yeah, I think in terms of the love he gets here, I don't think he'd get that at any other big club, to be honest. I think we have been very, very patient with him, and I don't at like a Chelsea or anyone else like that. When the striker's missing like that, I don't think he'd get the same support. So I think this is the right place for him to develop. He has done well this season in the majority. So yeah, I do think he deserves probably one more year at least. Under a new setup. Let's see how he does. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't be cashing in just yet.
Dean, I tell you what I think is going to happen.
Go
Before Carter come in, let me tell you what I think is going to happen. I think Diaz is the one that will be sold. I think we will add another winger, but a younger right winger, left-footed right winger, to kind of understudy Salah for a year, because Salah will remain another year based on what we're told. And I would prefer to see Darwin as the left winger, Salah on the right, and then the number 9 is alternated between Cody Gakpo and Jota. I don't think we need to buy another left winger. So that's what I suspect, because there must be something to all of these rumors that Luis Diaz wants to move. And as I've said many times, I think it has to do something with the contract. But the fact that he is he's up there is like 27, 20, 28, while Darwin is 24 going 25, I think Luis Diaz might be the one to leave. That is what I think will happen.
That's fair. I think it's an awkward one, isn't it? Considering this is one of been our highest goal-scoring seasons, and it's the front line's been under the most scrutiny out of anything. It'll be certainly interesting to see what happens over the summer, especially with Edwards back in the fold. Carter, are you, in your opinion, do you think, like Tom thinks, do you think Nunez is a left winger, or do you think he should stick with the number 9?
I think a thing for me is looking at like Slot's team. I think both wingers are around like 2.7 dribbles per game. And you look at Diaz, I think Diaz is the only guy over maybe 1.8. I think Diaz is 2.1. So if he left, I think Darwin's under a dribble a game. Salah's under a dribble a game. I think they're both. I think I looked at Salah's, and Salah's is like 33% maybe. So for a Slot kind of system, I don't think they suit. And I think, for me, I think Nunez is a number 9. And I think, I'm guessing you've all probably seen like Moneyball. Like, this is kind of the way I'm looking at him. And it's like, I think they sell the best like guy who plays on the first mound or whatever, or one of the batsmen. And they're like, this guy gets on base more than him, and he's significantly cheaper. And the way I look at Nunez is, he might touch the ball 16, 17 times, and he gets 6 shots. He puts 4 of them on target, whereas a normal player doesn't get that many chances. And I think even if he's never super clinical, he's going to be someone who's always going to get himself chances. And I think when we've been struggling, I think it's been the whole team. And I think an indication of if we're playing well is if Nunez is getting a number of chances, because he's like, his movement genuinely, I think, is unbelievable. I think he's a bit like Haaland in the sense of, Kane's got great movement, but because they're so tall, they're so big, they're so quick, they can get to other chances most players can't get to. And I think he's, for the amount of like touches he takes and the amount of shots and XG he produces, I do think it should work out, and it should. Some guys, they just don't. So I think I would stick with him at the 9. And I think I agree with Tom. And I think if next year, if he can't get around it, then it's got to be like a mental barrier. It's kind of got to be like, who's the Atletico Madrid striker? Morata. I think it's got to be a thing where they've got the technical ability. They can do it. It's just mentally they just can't. They just can't step past that boundary of being able to just calmly pick the best option and just regularly score. But I'd say at least one more year, maybe 2.
Yeah, I personally agree. I think under Slot system, having the 2 number 8s, they will push extremely high, play more like 10s. I think he'll benefit so much having extra bodies around him. I know he played as more of played out on the left at Benfica and loved to run into space, but I think it'll really suit him personally, having more bodies around him, having that attention off him, and having support. I think it'll really suit him next season. We'll have to just wait and see. And just to answer the question of, what was it? Atletico. If Atletico bids 40 million for Darwin, would you take it? No. 100% no. I don't think Edwards would even open the envelope, open the email. They would just get in the bin. No chance. You would want at least your money back. As much as he has been frustrating, he's still got good numbers. He still causes chaos. And there isn't many number 9s out there you can get for a good price. Simple as that. So before we move on to our second subject about Virgil van Dijk, we've got 3,000 people watching this across our 2 platforms. Guys, get over to YouTube, get into the comments, get subscribed to our YouTube channel. Like I said, we've got a hell of a lot of content coming up over the next few weeks, and especially the summer transfer window. So Virgil van Dijk, on a positive note, has indicated his future will be at Liverpool. He was asked earlier on about Arne Slot coming in. Obviously, he hasn't commented entirely on that because it hasn't been confirmed. But he has said he wants to be part of the new transition period. It will be a transition period under a new manager. Of course, it will be. But he wants to be part of that, and that is a major thing for Arne Slot and Liverpool Football Club. I don't know about you guys, but he's still one of the best centre-backs in the world. And to keep your best players, it's simple as that. Paul, it's got to be good news, hasn't it, for Arne Slot when he comes in, to have your captain wanting to stay?
It's very good news for sure. But I was never worried. I never for 1 minute think that our captain would leave. Because, let's face it, where would he go? How many teams in world football are higher profile than Liverpool? In England, Man United. He would never go to Man United, that's for sure. And then which other teams out there? Real Madrid, Barcelona, and probably Bayern Munich. Those are the only teams that are equal or probably above Liverpool in terms of profile in world football. So there is no reason to leave unless you go into one of those teams. Plus, he's a captain. He's highly paid. And I'm sure if you decide to re-sign another 2-3 year contract, he might very well be the highest paid player on the team, and he would deserve it. So I was never worried that he was going to leave. But having said that, it's still nice to hear him come out and actually say it, because that can influence, other free agents who might be thinking of coming to Liverpool, because nobody wants to come and be a part of a rebuild. People like to come to a stable club, if they have a choice. So it was nice that he said it, but as I said, I was never worried. He was going nowhere. I think I would suspect that there's a very good chance that he may finish his career at Liverpool, because if you look at Thiago Silva from Chelsea, Van Dijk can play at a high level for another 3, 4, 5 years easily. So I'm not worried. I think you're going to be here for a while.
Yeah, I agree as well. Tom, we're coming up to the transfer window, a new manager. We're all thinking who's going to bring in. It's surely more important to keep your best players, as I mentioned before, and Van Dijk's definitely one of them. It's a major boost to Salah, as much as that is a split opinion at the moment. Would you think it's more important to keep Van Dijk over Salah at the moment, as much as they both are world class? Would you think Van Dijk is a more important figure to keep around, harder to replace?
Yeah, I'd say so, just because, he improves the level of those around him, in the back four. When you've seen Kwanzaa come in, it's so much easier for him when he's alongside Van Dijk, to talk him through the games. You see how much of a leader he is, you see how much he talks throughout each game. Yeah, like I said, I think he just improves the level of those around him, whereas Salah, although his output's outstanding, world-class, every year, I don't think you can say he makes those others around him better, per se. So, for me, Van Dijk, just because the leadership qualities that he brings, as I said, he knits everyone together. And yeah, I think when he comes out the team, you do see much bigger drop than when Salah comes out the team. For example, this season when Salah was out the team, we actually arguably played our best football. So I don't think that would last. But as I said, I think when Salah comes out the team, we do kind of survive. We've seen that in the past when he's gone to AFCON, whereas obviously when Van Dijk's come out the team, you've seen the level that we've dropped. So yeah, for me, you want to keep them both, just because obviously in a big era of change, you do need some continuity to help that change to run as smoothly as possible. So yeah, buzzing that they're both going to be looking like they're both staying, but as I said, if you're going to keep one, I think it would be Van Dijk, definitely for me.
That's fair enough. I'm not going to lie, I agree on that. There's obviously always going to be rumours, and I think there will be rumours till the end of the transfer window, because that's just how the footballing world is. But I definitely agree that Virgil's going to be harder to replace going forward than Salah will. That's no disrespect to Salah. Love Salah with all my heart. I think Van Dijk, even now at 31, 32, is still probably the best, if not, well, definitely Ballon d'Or contender as a centre-back when he's on form anyway. Carter, I assume you agree it's a massive boost for Arne Slot while he sits there at Feyenoord still in these last remaining games. To hear that the Dutch captain, the Liverpool captain, what he wants to do. It's the world's worst kept secret that Arne Slot is going to be the manager, and the players probably know this. So when you hear that the captain wants to stay to see it through, and he has belief in the project, because there was obviously them comments made before that the players aren't certain, they weren't certain of their loyalty, and the fans got worried. And now we've had the 180 of we want to stay, we want to carry on the project. It's surely a massive boost, especially after losing Klopp.
Definitely. I think the process of getting a new manager that we've gone through was a lot better than like Tottenham last year, where it was like, I think 13 managers they had conversations with. It was like 14, and then they ended up with, I can't even remember, Ange, and so they went through like a lot of, and I think because it was Alonso, Amorim, him, kind of maybe De Zerbi as like a sort of strong shortlist, and then quickly people's name got taken off. I think the players were a lot more confident in the appointment. It wasn't like we were picking like the last person available. We had a look at all these candidates and we were like, this is the best one for us. And I think for him, I think there's certain players that when you look at sort of the four guys who are all up, sort of deals expiring soon, Trent, Van Dijk, Alisson and Salah are all superstar players. Like they're all players that you want to come and manage. And they're guys who, if your system maybe isn't great, like if it takes a little bit of time to him to adjust things and get things right, Van Dijk, if your defensive setup isn't that great, Van Dijk can bail you out. Alisson can bail you out. Trent, if the attacking patterns aren't great, Trent can literally do a 60-yard pass through to someone and we score. And Salah's just goals and assists like consistently. So I think for Slot, it's a massive boost. And I think for the players, the fact that the way the new manager's being sought out and appointed is probably like made them a lot more confident than if it was like, oh, this guy's rejected us, this guy's rejected us, this guy's rejected us. We can only go with this guy. Like what it looks like at Bayern now is like Lopetegui said no and Ragnick said no. And so if I was a Bayern Munich player, I'd be a lot more unsure and less confident about a new manager coming in than if I was a Liverpool player.
Yeah, exactly. It's balmy when you look at Bayern Munich, how poorly they've handled their manager situation. It is really, considering they've been the best run club in Germany for decades, and you look at it now, it's an absolute shambles. It's a bit of a shit show. So you've got to give FSG some props. We give them some stick, but they've, up to now, touch wood, they've handled this really well. The structure and the manager process has been very, very good. So before we move on to our third topic, I'll remind everyone again, there's 4,000 people watching this across both platforms. Get onto YouTube, guys, get in the comments. I'll read out as many as I can. And obviously, like, subscribe, loads of content coming up. So third topic is going to be Mats Wieffer, who currently plays for Feyenoord, as we all know, under Arne Slot. We've been linked with him in the past. He's an interesting option. A random stat got pointed out to me earlier today that Michael Edwards has never bought, at Liverpool, he's never bought a player outside the major leagues other than Minamino, which you could argue was a worthy risk for the price tag. So I don't know if that will come into play in regards to this, but we all talk about managers bringing players with them. Is this one that's worth taking a risk taking? He's got very, very good stats. He's in the high percentiles for most important stats of being a DM. Or do we believe that Bajcetic and Endo is going to be enough next season? Paul, I'll start with you.
I think he's worth a punt, I think it's, and when you look at his cost, I take a look at his performance over the last year or so. I mean, since Arne Slot has been heavily linked with us, I've been paying a lot of attention to Feyenoord, look at the players, look at some of their games and stuff, just to kind of get a feel. And there are 4 players on that team that stood out to me as possible candidates to come to Liverpool. Obviously, we won't get all 4. Maybe we only get 1, if any at all. Wiefer is one. Of course, we have spoken a lot about Gertruda, the right back, centre back, midfielder, everything. There is left foot centre back, David Hanko, or whatever you pronounce it. He is one that I really like more than the other 3, to be fair, primarily because it's his position is the position of greatest need, if you ask me, because he's a centre back that can play left back and he's left footed. Actually, they played a game on Sunday where they won 5-0, and he started at left back. And then there is the centre forward, the number 9. What I think Wieffer is, we should take a chance on him. He's going to be cheap. He went to Feyenoord 2 years ago for like 400,000 euros. And now I think we could get him for about, my guess, 25-30 million pounds. If you look at a player like João Paulina, he left Portugal 2 years ago for Fulham. He was 26, so that's 2 years older. Nobody really knew much about him at the time. And they paid 25 million for him. A year later, they were asking like 70-80 million. So it's kind of a low risk proposal, if you ask me. Plus, I like the profile of him. I'm old school, so I like my number 6 to be big physical guys. I like my number 6 to be 6'2", strong, long legs, can cover grounds rapidly, good header, and he fits that profile. So plus he actually, he has played a few games for the national team, so he must have something about him. So obviously, if it was like 60-70 million, it would be a different kettle of fish. But if we can get a guy like that for 25 million or so on, there's kind of little to no risk for me. So if we can, I would say that he would be a good shout, even more than Gertruda, not because he's a better player, but because of the area of need. Gertruda might be an upgrade on Joe Gomez, but it's not like say we are desperate for another right back. So I would say I would be surprised if we don't go for that guy. Plus, he's been linked with a few clubs in England too. I think he has been linked with Manchester United and Tottenham. And how many times have we seen these players that we like being linked with other teams? We don't pull the plug. They go to other teams and we regret it. We were saying the same thing last year about Mohamed Kudus. He's a Liverpool supporter. His favorite player is Thiago Alcantara. We could have gotten him for about 30 million. And now we wish we did that. So I don't think we'll make that mistake again. I think we will get this guy.
Certainly one to keep an eye on anyway over the summer, especially being a former player soon to be former player of Slot. Carter, I know you've probably watched a few videos like myself on YouTube of Arne Slot's system at Feyenoord, the couple of systems he has played over the last few seasons. One of the ones, the 4-3-3, Wiefer is so pivotal to his system. Everything goes through. Yes, the system's quite expansive where he goes long sometimes, hence why he has the target man. But Wiefer receives the most balls. It all goes through him and he pushes it forward. Do you believe that Endo and Bajcetic are capable of holding that responsibility going forward in the Premier League for Liverpool, the Champions League as well, of course? Or do you feel we need to make an upgrade and go for someone like Mats Wiefer?
I think it's Wiefer's quite interesting because as you kind of said, I have watched a lot of videos and some of them, like the ones I was more interested in were them speaking about Feyenoord in the Champions League, because I think that's more reflective of how he'll coach in the league, because obviously the quality step up of the opposition, like there's a lot more players in the Champions League that can hurt you than in the Eredivisie. And I think from what I saw in some of the games, Wieffer actually played a bit more of like a 6/8, and they had another number 6 whose name I can't recall play. And I almost feel like Wieffer he looks talented. I think everyone sort of likes the idea of having a guy sort of a bit in the Declan Rice build, who's quite tall, athletic, long legs, can sort of get around the pitch and put out fires. But I almost feel like he's a bit too similar to some of the other guys in terms of what he really wants to do. Like, I feel like he wants to be a bit more risky on the ball and try and make things happen. And I feel like that's almost not what we need as the 6. I feel like we just kind of need someone, not sideways passes, but we almost need that. Like, sometimes I think we're the 4th most long balls in the league, and the only other teams are like Everton and Nottingham Forest and those type of teams. And I think we need to be a lot more calm and composed on the ball, and Slot's like a lot higher for like short passes. So I almost feel like, especially if maybe Trent inverts or you have Mac playing next to them, I think the guy who comes in as the 6 needs to be a lot more of like a risk-averse player. I think they need to be good in the tackle, good in the aerial duels, quick. But I almost feel like Wieffer being a bit expansive goes against him, in my opinion. Like, I feel like you more want a Fabinho who just ticks things over, moves it on, and doesn't give the ball away. But I do think he's interesting, but I think he's too similar to like Bajcetic and maybe even Gravenberch and Jones, to be honest.
But sometimes, Carter, sometimes it depends on the quality of the teammates you have around you. Because if you look at how he plays for the Netherlands, he plays as a more defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
I guess because he has better midfielders around him. So I'm pretty sure if we're looking for a 6, an out-and-out 6, a Declan Rice, Rodri kind of 6, who's gonna sit back and put out fires, he would be a big upgrade over Endo, if you ask me. And it's not like we're gonna pay 70 million for the guy. If we can get for 25, 30 million, to me, it's a no-brainer.
I just think if we think there's someone out there who can be a really top 6, maybe I'm just going to throw a name like Edison at Atalanta, or maybe Ben Sheaf at Coventry, maybe not at that level yet. But if there's someone maybe we look and we think we can see the next Tchouaméni, I don't see the point of us spending 25 million unless we think he's going to be top. I don't see the point, whilst we have Endo, spending 25, 30 million on a player who's a slight upgrade. I think we should be looking for the guy who's a top elite 6, because I think that's what you really need to be at the highest level. Like, look at Madrid, look at City, look at Arsenal. All their success is almost built off the 2 centre halves and the number 6. And I feel like that's kind of where we've lacked. And I think there's no point going from average to like above average. If we think he's really good, sign him. But I think we need to be out on the look for the next big number 6.
Well, his manager says that he has the ability to become the best number 6 in the world. So that should be that is a big statement.
Don't forget, Pep said Matheus Nunes is one of the best players in the world. So I think you've got to sometimes manage expectation from the guy who maybe the manager's just played against, or who's in their own team.
Yeah, and Pep also said similar about Calvin Phillips when they signed him from Leeds.
Take things with a pinch of salt, guys, especially from their own managers. But yeah, as a Never Give Up stated here, playing Maka at DM again, and okay, he has done a good job for us at times this season, but I do think that would severely limit it, especially in Slot system, where he'd be allowed to play as more of a 10. I think he will thrive in a further forward position, especially towards behind the striker. The amount of assists he could pick up would be ridiculous. But yeah, Tom, do you have faith with Endo and Bajcetic? Forget Wieffer for a second. Do you think they're good enough to carry the team forward, or do you feel like there should be an upgrade there? We know we're going after centre-backs and defenders in general, and we're being reported to go for a winger, especially a right-sided winger. Do you feel like a number 6 should be on the shopping list?
No, not as a priority, to be honest with you. Obviously, Endo's dropped off a little bit of late, but so is the whole team. And it's easy to forget, from like, say, December onwards, there's a case to be made that he's been our best player from like December to March, April time. I think, he's absolutely outstanding in what he did. So yeah, for me, I think he's definitely got, another year or two in him. And maybe next year if Bajcetic can get some more games under his belt, because it's going to take him obviously a while to get back to his best, the length of time that he was out for. So for me, I think if Endo and Bajcetic sort of share minutes next season, and then season after that, you'd like to think Bajcetic could be ready to take the mantle on from then. So yeah, for me, Wiefer, he's, like I said, it's low risk because it's probably a cheap fee. Obviously, the manager, he knows, and the manager knows him well, so the potential to be a good fit there. But like I said, for me, I don't think that's a priority. I think the two options that we've got, obviously, different ages, like the different ends of the age spectrum. So you could kind of argue that we need a bit more like a mid-20s type player to kind of fill in for a bit. But for me, like I said, Bajcetic and Endo to share the minutes next season, then Stefan be a mainstay from the year after. I think he's got that ability. We saw that, when he came into the team. He's got very good ability on the ball. He can win possession, very composed. I think he's got everything really. So yeah, I'd like to think from about a year from now, he'll be ready to take that mantle, and I wouldn't be, investing elsewhere in that position just because of how talented I think he is.
Yeah, that's a fair point. In the summer, we were obviously all crying out for a number 6, and rightfully so. But what kept getting briefed by the media was, we want someone who will not stand up by Cheshire's way. And rightfully so, I think he's very, very talented. I think that a lot of the staff behind the scenes have a lot of faith in him. He is going to be, if he carries on the way we want him to go, and we hope he goes, he could be one of the best midfielders in the world in the future. So it will be certainly interesting how we approach that. If we do decide to strengthen the number 6, do we just go for someone, maybe an upgrade on Endo? We'll see. I think Endo's been good in patches. Obviously, the team in general struggled in recent weeks, but I think he played quite well against Tottenham. And when he came off, he didn't look as solid, but in fairness, Bajcetic is going to be very rusty. He hasn't played hardly any football, so it's hard to really comment on his performance, even though I thought he was quite solid, made a few mistakes, but it's understandable with the lack of football and the lack of sharpness. Before we move on to our last topic, I remind people that there's 5,000 people watching this across both platforms. Get in the comments, guys, on YouTube. As I said before, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. And then we'll move on to our last topic, which is a few points from the game yesterday. It's nice to actually win a game of football. It feels like it's been a while. It has only been a few weeks, but as we know at Liverpool, we want to win every game. I felt like, I don't know about you guys, but the front three was probably the most fluid it's been.
Whoa, what a goal.
Last season, at the end of... Go on, Paul, go on.
Michael Olise just walked through Man U defense like hot knife through butter. 1-0 Crystal Palace.
Oh, lovely. That's what we want to hear. It's always good news when United are losing a game of football. But yeah, the front three yesterday with Gakpo, Diaz and Salah, I felt like it reminded me, okay, wasn't the most potent as of days gone by, but it reminded me of the way they were fluid, the way the interchange reminded me of the old school front three. And it's been a long time since I felt that. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I feel like Gakpo drifting on the left, even though sometimes he was central. I think he brought the best out of Salah again. I think since Salah's come back, that's probably the best the front three have played. Carter, what do you think? I'll start with you first. Do you think that was the best the front three have played since Salah's come back?
Probably, to be honest. I think, and not everyone agrees, I think maybe not as a conventional number 9, but I think Gakpo is a lot better at the 9. I think he's a lot better when he gets to move around and go into different spaces and that kind of thing. And I just think, I'll be honest, I don't want to put a downer on it. I think we looked good, but I think Spurs have genuinely been abysmal for like the last 3, 4, 5, 6 games. I don't think it's a good sort of litmus test. I think Villa will be a lot better way to sort of see how we've been playing. So I'm not going to go over too much, but I think it did look good. Salah looked a lot more involved, I think, and maybe some people agree. I think Trent sort of maybe not inverting as much kind of helped in that way. I think having him as another attacking player, I think having Harvey sort of on the right, like he sort of helped knit things together and get Salah a lot more involved and get Gakpo more involved. And he's always looking for the switch. So I think almost the whole, because I wouldn't look at it as just the three. I look at the attackers, the 2 8s, the 2 fullbacks, and the front three. And I think it looked a lot smoother today. I mean, yesterday technically.
Yeah, I fully agree. It reminded me, like say, a performance that's gone by. It seemed that everything was sinking together. Like you say, the fullbacks actually played the old school style, like say, staying wide, getting balls forward, didn't invert as much from Trent. The wingers actually interchanged really well. Gakpo, like say, had that space to drift around, and it reminded me of the Bobby performance, like say, and Elliott. We'll get on to Elliott in a bit. Probably one of his best performances for Liverpool. Tom, same question again. Do you think it was probably the best front three performance since Salah's come back? And do you prefer playing that front three, or do you prefer having what we did before Salah come back? So take Salah out of the equation when it was Jota, Nunez, and Diaz. Do you think that's a better front three than the front three we had on yesterday? Do you think which front three worked better together?
I think our best front three always has to have Mo Salah in it, just because he's a world-class player, and I don't think we can say that about any of the others. You can have off games, but he gets you 30 goals a season every year. So I think just for that alone, obviously he has to be in there. I do like Gakpo, to be honest. Like you said, it does kind of remind you of days gone by, because he does have the qualities of a false nine. Very good technical, very comfortable on the ball, good at bringing others into play, which obviously was reminiscent of Bobby Firmino. And yeah, I think it's easy to forget, this time last year, we were all raving about Cody Gakpo, like how good he was. He didn't start this year too well, first 2 or 3 games. And then since then, he hasn't really had a chance. So if you think about it, if he just has another run of games, he can easily get back to that level that he reached at the back end of last season. Everyone was saying, we've already got our Bobby replacement sorted. But it's easy to forget, obviously, because he's been in and out this season. He was absolutely excellent, back end of last year. So for me, I would give him more of a chance. I think Darwin, although he's been good, has had his chance in a way now. I think it's time to give Gakpo, obviously we're coming to the end of the season, but maybe starting next year, it's time to give him a sustained run of the team and show what he can do. Because, like I said, obviously far superior to Darwin on the ball, which, brings others into play. And I think, like you said, the team sort of gels better when he's in there. He might not be a bit of a less of a goal threat, but if you got Salah in there, it's not as important, for him to provide the goals. So yeah, I'd like to see Salah, Gakpo, Diaz start next season and give them a proper run of games together and see what they can do.
Yeah, I agree. I think going forward for the last couple of games anyway, I'd stick with the same team, because why not? Like I said, the best performance for a good part of a month. I'd definitely stick with the same team from yesterday for the Villa game. See how, like Card said, a bit more of an acid test away at Villa. It's a tough place to go. Let's see how it goes from there on. Paul, sticking with the front three, going forward into next season under Slot, let's say we make no more additions. Let's just stick with the front three with the options we've got. Who has the biggest question mark? Who has the biggest target on the back for criticism? Who are you most worried about going into the next season?
It's actually Darwin Nunez, No, I like the guy, and I'm a little bit conflicted, because I've always maintained that our best front three is Darwin, Lucho, and Salah. But he has been criticized, and some of the criticism is fair. If you look at his performance, some of them is fair. And then when you have the other players stepping up, and when they get a chance to fill that void, it's kind of hard to not have him spend some time on the bench. Because if you're a top manager, you have to have the mindset that you're going to play your best 11 rather than worry about how players will feel if they get left out, or worry about how much was paid for them, etc. But having said that, I really love when Darwin Nunez is in the team. So I'm a little bit conflicted, to be honest. Now, I think that Cody is the closest to Bobby Firmino of the 5 of them, because he's the one that can drop back into the small space. He's very versatile. He can play on the wing, of course. He can play that false 9. But there is something about Darwin and the chaos and the effort, the energy that he brings to the team that I really like. Yes, Cody deserved to start the next game. I will give you that. Even though, to be fair, the game yesterday is not exactly the best barometer because Spurs is not the greatest team in terms of defending. Their midfield yesterday was absent. And with that high line, if we are organized, we'll always get a lot of chances. And our Elliott was a monster yesterday in terms of his pressing and his performance. But when you look at the previous 3 games, when we play against, low block defensive minded team like West Ham, Everton, or even Palace, it was a lot more difficult. So it's really tough. But based on yesterday's performance, it would be unfair not to start the same front 3 for the next game. But going forward into next year, I still believe that Darwin is part of our best front 3. Jota is, yes, our best finisher, but there is something about Jota coming off the bench late in game when we need a goal that appeals to me. And he seems to have his best performances when he come off the bench. So it's a good problem to have. And if the manager is uncertain, then it means either that all the players are good or all the players are shite, right? So I'm hoping it's a former, but Cody needs a start. But I want to see a lot more of Darwin Nunez.
That's fair. I definitely think a couple of them definitely suit a change of ideas. I'm not criticising Klopp at all, but I think some fresh ideas, fresh system will suit a couple of the current lads, especially Nunez. I do think it will really benefit him, and hopefully does stay and gets that chance. Paul, you mentioned Elliott just. Would you agree that was probably one of his best performances this season?
Yeah, I think so. He was very good yesterday. I would say one of his best performance as a starter, because he's usually good with those cameo when they come on with 30 minutes or so to go, but he was pretty good yesterday. Elliott is one of those players that I'm a little bit conflicted on because he is not in my best 11, but every time the guy gets a chance, he seems to work so hard because he wants to play. It reminds me of the player that we had a few years ago. You guys remember Shaqiri? Sheridan Shaqiri? But just that Elliott is a better defense, is a better presser, is a harder worker. But they are both small guys, 5'6", 5'7", left-footed wingers. And I really like Shaqiri when he was with us, even though he didn't score as many goals as he should. But Elliott, to me, is an improved version of Shaqiri. So I like him a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say, I think, to be fair, I know he hasn't started every game and he's been off the bench a lot, but I think he's probably been our one of the most consistent performance over the season. Even through the good patches, the bad patches, Elliott has been consistent in himself. He's been involved, goals and assists, work rate, it's all been there. And I do think next season will be his season. This was the start of it. I think next season, when he plays going forward as a 10 behind striker, I think he's going to thrive. Really do. I'm quite excited about him next season. Tom, do you think this is the start? I know Elliott's had patches, he's had moments over the last couple of years. We forget he's still only very young. We signed him at a very young age. Do you reckon this is the making of Elliott? This is the start? Or do you reckon next season is where, as I said before, do you reckon next season is where he really kicks on?
Yeah, I'd like to see him get a proper chance next season. I think last couple of months he's been very, very unlucky not to, get more starts in the team. We've obviously had Szoboszlai, who's been underperforming for a while now, and obviously Curtis Jones, since he's come back, has not really found the levels that he showed, earlier on in the season. So for me, Elliott, every time he's come on, he impacts the game, and I think, as a result of that, he's been very unlucky not to get a run. Like I said, especially because all the others have been underperforming. So yeah, I really, really, really rate him every time he puts on the shirt. he's not only technically outstanding, but he does also, like you said, put the work rate in. So yeah, I'd love to see him get more of a chance next year. He's obviously lacking a little bit of the height and the presence for a number 8, which I think has been his problem really. But yeah, he might be probably more suited to like a number 10 in an ideal world. But yeah, I still like to see him get a sustained run in the team next year, because I think based on his performances this year, he's really earned it. And like I said, whenever he plays, he's always impacting the game, which I don't think you can say about some of the others. So yeah, big talent and big future ahead of him. And I think won't be too long before he's a mainstay in that midfield.
One of the issues that we will face next year, Dean, is if we play with a number 10, we have about 5 or 6 players who that role would fit perfectly. Because don't forget Gravenberch. He's somebody that I'm really anxious to see how he would fit in the new system. We have Curtis Jones. What are we going to do with Fabio Carvalho? So is Soboslai a winger? So it's going to be interesting to see how it shapes out next year with all of these players.
Yeah, I fully agree. Well, certainly with the new Champions League format, we're going to need the players, we're going to need the bodies. We're going to be a lot of games to play. It's going to be really interesting to see how we all set up and going forward. Since you mentioned Carvalho, Carter, I'll come to you on this. Elliott really shone after a season in the Championship playing for Blackburn. Carvalho's had half a season playing for Hull. Been very good. Goals, return, assists, and I've watched him a few times. His work ethic's been very impressive considering where he was probably about 12 months ago. Do you reckon he gets a chance next season, or do you reckon it's like his stock's risen again? Do we cash in, or do you reckon he gets a chance?
For me, I think the Carvalho thing's a bit different. I think him and Elliott are both a bit physically limited, is maybe the way I'd say it. But I have watched a bit of Hull, not too much, and someone I know does watch every Hull game. And although he scores and although he assists, he still, from what I've seen and what he said, he still struggles a lot physically. Like he can get knocked off the ball quite easily. Like pace wise, he's not like sort of he's not that much quicker than everyone. I think when he gets back to the Premier League, I think for certain teams, I think you'll be okay with his sort of physical deficiencies, because the one thing I'll say is he can score goals. Like that's what he's got. Like he can put the ball in the back of the net. And I think for someone he'd be really useful. I think he honestly reminds me a lot of Minamino. I think they're two very similar players. Whereas I think someone like Elliott, because whenever you see those charts on Twitter about like chances created, sort of pressures, Elliott's always, it's like him, Fernandes, Odegaard, always in the top right corner. Like Elliott does really well statistically. Like I think Elliott's got a lot more strings to his bow. So I think Carvalho is in a lot of a weaker position compared to Elliott. Like I think Elliott offers a lot more going forwards. And I just think for both of them, the issue is to be in the team. I feel like against top teams, I feel like neither of them can really coexist with McAllister. I think the team's a bit too small. I think it lacks pace. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Slot sort of covers up for players' deficiencies, because not every player is perfect. Not every player is Virgil van Dijk. Like not everyone has no weaknesses and needs no one to cover for them. Sometimes if you have a smaller, more diminutive player, you have to have big, crazy number 6s and number 8s next to them. Or unless you're in the case of when we had Thiago and Fabinho, who both had ridiculous tackles and interception numbers to make up for Elliott in that sort of season where he had 4 or 5 games and looked completely unbelievable as an 8 before he had the bad injury. So I think it's a difficult job for Slot to fit these guys in, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. It is going to be a tough one this summer. He's going to need time to find his best side, and obviously we're going to be sitting here demanding improvement to the team as fans because we want to see investment in the side, and then he's got to juggle that with the actual squad itself. But it's an exciting, intriguing time. We've definitely got the tools. We've seen this season, even with all the injuries, we're capable of challenging. I think we just need some tactical tweaks here and there, and I think I've got confidence now after looking into him. I believe that Slot can provide that. And I think next season could be very exciting, even if it might be a transitional period. We still have to show patience. But I believe next season could be really, really interesting going forward. Just a quick one on Dave Rose's comments. It says, get Elise in, and as a no-brainer. Well, Elise, as much as I like him, he lasts about 10 games and his hamstrings explode. As much as I like Elise a lot, £60 million for a player who misses a lot of games through injury, I can't see that going ahead. And Eze, a bit similar, to be honest. I know he plays more midfield, but I don't think we need a 10. I really don't. I think if we're going to get a midfielder, it's going to be a 6. But that rounds us off. It's been an hour. Thank you guys for joining. We've had 6,000 people viewing. Absolutely amazing. Like I say, go over to YouTube, get subscribed, like, subscribe, all the stuff. We've got some great content, as mentioned before. Jurgen Klopp tribute stream after the season finishes, season review, all the hosts and guests, transfer predictions. And of course, once that window kicks in, we'll have a new manager. We've got a new setup. It's an exciting and intriguing time to be a Liverpool fan. We can't wait to see what happens. We're going to have it covered here. All the opinions from fans around the world. Get subscribed. Thank you very much for watching. And we'll be back here at 7:30 again tomorrow. See you all there.